On March 17th, 2023, the end of the DCU began with the release of Shazam! Fury of the Gods.
The new movie Shazam! Fury of the Gods.
Back in theaters this week with Shazam! Fury of the Gods.
And it bombed at the box office, grossing $133.4 million against a budget of roughly $125 million. Keep in mind, Quantumania did $474.4 million against a budget of $200 million. And Wakanda Forever did $859.2 million against a budget of $250 million. Added to that, Black Adam performed poorly, barely recouping its budget. Whether the box office is a reflection of the quality is something everyone is going to have an opinion, but a bulk of the problem is two things. One is that audiences are dealing with superhero fatigue in terms of movies and television releases, so these movies need to be on point in order to perform in today's climate. And second is that it was a remnant of the pre-James Gunn DC studios, and despite Gunn saying that it fits within the DCU,
first, we have Shazam! Fury of the Gods. Shazam! Has always been off kind of in his own part of the DCU, so he connects very well.
The general audiences believed that DC movies were dead and had little to no interest in the movie. I watched the movie and overall I thought it was a fun movie. It wasn't a big event movie like Endgame, but it was a decent story, solid casting, and more importantly, it didn't take a dump on who Shazam is as a character. Looking at you, Dwayne.
I'm kidding.
Take one of the hibiscus, Emily. Get one of the flowers.
One of the highlights of the film for me, and it seems a lot of fans, was the added attention they gave to Mary Marvel. Mary Marvel is one of the oldest characters in comics, and is a fan favorite among readers, and really has been a versatile character in comic books. Recently, she had a character shift in the comics as she gave her powers to Wonder Woman, but was given some magic relics allowing her flight and super strength, and more importantly, she officially became Mary Marvel, again pulling away from the powers of Shazam and hopefully becoming a hero on her own terms, at least until the powers of Shazam come back to her somehow. I think Mary Marvel has the potential to be a key supporting character in the new DCU, not just in the initial stages of these movies, but as a key player in building the world of DC. And a little bit later in the video, I'm going to go over my idea for how Mary Marvel should be used in order to help keep things together, rather than ignore her character altogether, which may or may not happen. So, there's 3 reasons why Mary Marvel should play an important supporting role in the DCU going forward. Number 1 is casting. Second is story versatility. She's been used in comics over the years in tons of ways and can fit into a variety of different movies and genres. And finally is keeping the Shazam franchise present in the DCU, because there's little room to believe that a follow-up to a second movie is in the works right now. I don't like to speculate, mostly because we as DC fans has so many false promises over the years, but I do think that there has to be heavy interest in keeping Shazam alive as a franchise, considering that it was one of Peter Safran's projects before he took over. Casting is one of the biggest issues in Shazam movies because you have to work with kids who will age out of the roles. Think Stranger Things.
So I like everybody's storyline.
Do really good Shad looks.
A lot of the core cast of the Shazam family are kids, including Billy Batson. So what's going to happen if they don't get this movie out in the next 2 to 3 years? It'll be pointless, and there's a chance that the mass audiences will forget about these movies, or really have no interest in them. On the other hand, we don't have that issue with Mary Marvel. Unlike the other kids in the film, she was already older when they released the first film. Toward the end of the film, when she received powers from Billy, they used another actress for her superhero version, played by Michelle Borth, while Grace Curry played the unpowered version of the character.
Ball in my head, that's disgusting.
That's funny.
You got me going.
Guys.
While in the sequel, Curry was cast as both her human form and her superpowered form, which made her a highlight in the film as you never felt the disconnect between the two versions of the character.
What was that like? Tell me how that worked.
Busy, because
Yeah.
I was working in the morning with the kids and then jumping into my superhero suit and working with the adults in the evening, and every day I was just kind of jumping between the two casts. So the joke was that I was just always on set. I never left.
That being said, it's going to be real easy to use Curry in supporting roles in other films down the line simply because of this factor. There's no need to worry about forgetting to show the kid form or any of that nonsense because she will always be Mary whether she's powered or not. And if you factor age into it, she's 26 and the character she plays is currently college aged. So there's no crazy age gap for the character and the actress, which will work to the benefit of the studio if they want to extend her role in the plans of the DCU. So casting wise, Mary Marvel can work, but storytelling is king, and more importantly, long-term storytelling is what keeps the audience going. A good example of this is the role of Falcon in the MCU. Falcon started as a supporting member in the Captain America films, which eventually led to his role in Falcon and Winter Soldier, and now his time as Captain America, which was directly lifted from the comic books, which told a story over time, which is now why people are invested in seeing this character in his own solo film as Captain America. The character has versatility, the ability to adapt or be adapted to many different functions or activities. Functionally, this is how Mary can work within the DCU, because her story over time has had her take on different and defined roles that provide character growth, from supporting Shazam character to villain and connections to Black Adam and Darkseid, and as a primary champion of the powers of Shazam. Added to the fact that her powers are magic based, she could be used as a supporting cast in movies based around magic heroes, such as the possible Constantine or Zatanna films, similar to how some characters in the MCU had cameos to devise and provide the support to main characters of other films. Because the comics and animated shows have already laid a foundation for this in her history, fans won't be surprised to see these turn of events and can perhaps look forward to her roles in her own solo films down the line, which I will go over later in the video, and how I think DC should use her. Yet her primary use could be to keep the franchise alive in the eyes of general audiences. The big issue surrounding the Shazam movies is a transition in power from the prior studio head to the team of Gunn and Safran. This impact was already felt by a poor box office performance that, based on audience reception, had less to do with the quality of the film, but the belief that watching it wasn't going to matter because the events in the film would be ignored by the next series of movies. There's no guarantee one way or another of Shazam continuing in its current state, but I have to believe that the mid-credit scenes that played in the film about Waller wanting Shazam to join the Justice Society will play a part in it. Despite Black Adam not coming back anytime soon, a highlight of the film was the Justice Society.
Who's on the team? I didn't bring a passport.
We don't need passports.
Who I feel could serve as an intermediate team-up film like the Guardians of the Galaxy or Suicide Squad, and between big set-piece movies like a possible Justice League film. But since there's no set plans that we're aware of in terms of Shazam, Mary appearing sporadically in cameos or supporting roles in future films could keep the audience aware that the champions of Shazam still exist in the world of the DCU. That being said, let's discuss how I think Mary Marvel should be used in the DCEU films. So, how to make this work? Well, I think it all depends on who the DCU chooses first as their big event film. Since I don't think they'll do a copy and paste of the MCU, I don't see Darkseid being the first big villain, but I do see him coming back later, on which I'll go over in a bit. Let's say there's 5 films starting with Superman and ending in a big crossover film with someone like Brainiac attacking. In these films, not including Superman, you could have Mary appear in cameo roles. For instance, with the upcoming Supergirl film, you could have her having a conversation together talking about balancing life, being a hero, and their secret identities. You could have other moments where magic-based heroes may ask her to help with research in the Rock of Eternity library, which I thought was a really great set piece within the film. If they decide to pursue a Titans team, she could join characters like Blue Beetle and other possible Bat Family members being introduced in the upcoming Batman and Robin film. Ideally, she would play a supporting role in the first big crossover film. All this will keep the Shazam franchise alive, but the bigger payoff will be in a Crisis-like film involving the likes of Darkseid. While the first few appearances will do to affirm her goodness and ethics as a hero, it could also provide questions of doubt and insecurities within her psyche due to the growing amount of heroes within the DCU. This could lead her to turn to the dark side like she has in the past in the comics and within the Young Justice series, where figures like Granny Goodness take advantage of her insecurities and manipulate her to join their side. If it's Darkseid as a villain, she could join the Furies to fight the heroes, and then possibly lead to a redemption arc in a solo film as a new champion of Shazam, like in the recent comics. Mary is a long-term play of the DCU like Falcon, where the payoff isn't necessarily done over the course of 1 to 2 films, but rather a series of films. She could also be used as substitutes for cameos needing a figure like Wonder Woman without using Wonder Woman, kind of like how the old plan was for Supergirl to take over Superman for a while after the release of the Flash film. But these are my thoughts. Let me know if you agree or disagree with me. Do you see Mary Marvel having an expanded role in the DCU, or is she just going to be forgotten? For more videos like this one, and to learn how I accepted the Snyderverse for what it is, click here.
Billy was right. I had to stop, but But that doesn't mean I have to stop being a hero. I can use my connection to you to become a sorceress. To be just as important and powerful as you ever were, without abandoning who I am.